happening, my beautiful people? You are listening to the Raitrú podcast, episode numero dos. I'm your host, Pacheco. With me, of course, I have my Booyah family. To my right, I have...
Piro Lopez.
Word?
Ibeliz, Bomba
de Corazón. I really enjoyed our first episode. That was a good time, and I got to talk to you guys and have people really understand who you are and who we are as a group.
Had a blast.
This episode, we have someone very special on, someone that, again, is family to us.
Yeah, baby.
I think very important when you talk about Bomba, her name is most likely gonna come up, especially when you talk about the female drummers, strong drummers. Her name, of course, is gonna come up. It's none other than all the way from Cali, our sister Denise Solis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Chi-Town, baby.
Saludos, thank you.
I told you,
I'm
man,
at home.
stop
I
bringing
feel
them
at
guns in
home.
my house. Told you, man.
How do you feel? How are you?
I'm excited. I'm really happy to be here again. Every time I come to Chicago, I can't leave without seeing my Booyah family. So
Of course,
I feel at home.
Prior to today, I've met you a couple more times. Actually, the second workshop, Bomba workshop I ever took was with you. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, at
It was Casita.
Casita, yes.
Norca was there as well. I took at this time I was like just coming into Booyah.
Is
It
that
was the
when?
longest time.
Yeah.
That's when I
So
brought
here.
you guys in, La Bompleneras.
Exactly.
Yes.
Brought D,
And Norca.
Sara, and Norca.
Yes. And it was a great workshop.
For Bompleneras 1 year anniversary.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great time. That was a fun workshop. I remember you going over Sace. The whole workshop we worked on Sace. That's something I remember. I remember the crazy dude. Remember? Crazy guy ran up on us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that?
Remember?
I
I was
remember.
about to get
Yeah.
Yes.
So for those that don't know, the workshop was going on. It was in Casita, so it was outside, and people were around on the block, right, just hanging out, whatever. And this guy came up and got on his knees, and he started, praying and doing all these things. And so I think it was Norca that told him, no, you can stand up. This isn't religious. And he goes, no, yo soy santero, blah blah blah, this and that. We were telling him, hey, this isn't what this is.
Right.
This is all love. And then he got real hostile.
Yes.
I think he either spit at somebody or whatever, and Evie almost gave him the goods. I remember.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I gotta repartir the goods out here para que sepan que está bueno.
Awesome. So, I think one of the interesting things is, Denise, you come from Cali, right? Are you originally from California?
No, I'm originally from Texas. I grew up in the border of Texas and Mexico. My family is Mexican descent, and my mom is both my parents are from Mexico. My mom's immigrated to the United States when I was in her belly. So
that's awesome.
Nice.
I'm from Texas, and then I moved to Cali in 2002. So I've been there since.
That's so dope.
The Bay Area.
For those that don't know, Denise was from what I remember when I was first meeting you, you were director of Bomberas de la Bahia.
Yes. So I'm one of the founders and director of Las Bomberas de la Bahia.
It was an all-female group, all women.
Group. Yes.
All women, and that was.
I think it was like the third group that we know of. It was Yaya in New York, and then Nandi in Puerto Rico, and then us in the Bay Area, and then Bompleneras in Chicago, and now we have Alsuba
That's
in
awesome.
Puerto Rico.
And today, what?
So
because I know the Bombera de la Bahia is no longer. So
No,
what is it that you're on today?
Right now, I founded a project called Taller Bombalele with my wife Julia Caridad Cepeda. So we met actually at a Bomba event in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And fell in love and had a long distance relationship, and then she moved to the Bay Area in 2013. And then in 2014, she was asked actually to teach a dance class at Studio Grand by the executive director, Vanessa Camarena. And that studio was founded by one of our Bombera de la Bahia members who passed away from cancer after she founded the studio. And Holly was the founder, and so then Vanessa took it over and said, hey, we should have Bomba in the space. So she asked Julia to start some classes.
And it grew from there.
We founded Taller Bombalele, and now we have an ensemble from the students that have been, it's already been a couple years that have been more consistent. We're now doing performances around the Bay Area and bombazos.
Oh, man, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a great story. So you being a Mexicana.
That was a great story.
Ay, qué lindo. Yeah.
That was great.
You being Mexicana, how did you first start Bomba? Like, how did you get into being the absolute monster that you are today?
Thank you. Well, I first saw Bomba in 2000 in a conference. I saw Roberto Cepeda dancing with Los Pleneros de la 21. And so I wasn't raised by my biological father. My father, who raised me, was not the man who was my father biologically, and so my biological father is a musician, and everyone in his family, he was a self-taught composer, musician. So I've always had an affinity towards music, but I didn't really pursue it too much. I played the trombone in like school band. I can play the trombone, hella random. So I saw Bomba in 2000, and I gotta say, like, it just took over my life. I didn't get to take a class until 2002 because in Texas there was no Bomba classes where I lived. At that time I lived in San Antonio. So I did look up a Puerto Rican percussion teacher, but he taught West African and Cuban. And he said, Bomba, I know one rhythm, Sika, and I kind of like learned Sika on a tumbadora. But that, wasn't until I moved to the Bay Area that I started taking classes and learning. And once kind of that door opened for me, it became it still is a lifelong journey of learning. So I've been all over the country, wherever there's a Bomba community, I go and...
You've been there,
yeah. Yeah, I go to everything I can afford to go, or even if I can, I'll put it on the credit card and be like, fuck it, I gotta be there.
Stop
if
it,
there's
you're
Bomba.
And, Stop it, you're rich.
and so I've met amazing people. I met our Chicago family a while back.
Denise was at our first Booyah performance.
Yes.
Our first.
I still have the T-shirt, the original Booyah T-shirt.
Was it the yellow one?
I have the yellow one, the green one, the aqua one.
She was there. I remember that.
Nice.
I was like, that was.
Yeah, we talked about that first gig. It wasn't too hot.
No, we didn't. We didn't like that.
That's awesome. So, who was your first teacher then?
So I first started at the now it's called the Bomba en Plena workshop at La Peña that Hector Lugo and Shefali taught. I learned percussion with Hector Lugo.
Shout out to them, yeah.
Shout out. And then I started learning one-on-one with Ito Carrillo, Romanito Carrillo. And
Pito mentioned
much love to him. He really taught me a lot. And that's when I started kind of playing Primo, and he had a dance class at Dance Mission that I was able to play for. And so it was interesting because I learned from him. And when I started, I was already apprenticing with the group, the local group called Cacique Congo. And so I came on as an apprentice. So I appreciate that opportunity that Hector and Shefali gave me with their first, I think it was their second group, Cacique Congo. And so then Ito said, hey, you should, I'm available if you want to do one-on-ones. So I came to his class with a bullador to his house, and he was like, oh, you're not going to need that for a while. And I started from the basics, maraca, putting on a skirt and learning to dance. And for anyone that knows me, I don't wear skirts. No. So I'm not a skirt-wearing type of gal. So that was interesting. But I appreciate the way that he taught. And then since then, I've had the opportunity to take workshops with other folks. But more recently, I would say in the last 4 years, I've been learning with Jesus Cepeda, which has been
that has to be
Jedi status. Because just being able to be around him and see his process and learn. And recently he came to do a a residency in the Bay. It doesn't hurt that, you know, his daughter lives there. So, you know, Julia and I were able to convince him to come spend the summer with us, and we raised some money, and he got an actual master artist grant from NALAC, Association of Latino Cultural Organizations. And so that was awesome because I got to get in the studio with him and see him like in his element. He's
I think I saw pictures of that.
Yeah, because I you know, I've known him as a bombero, but his musical trajectory is expansive. He did some pretty amazing recordings with La Orquesta Umi, with his Grupo ABC, a whole orchestra, and he's also a pretty dope ass composer in his own right. So while he was in the Bay Area, he composed a whole bunch of bomba songs. So we're like, we got to get you in the studio, and I wanted him to sing because he's a primo player, and he's like, no, yo no canto, yo toco, and he sang some songs on the CD. It's in its mastering phase right now, but we're excited to put that out there because his voice is now gonna be on a recorded album.
That's crazy.
It's a collector's item.
That's oh man, that's awesome. I remember I met him in New York when Buya did Bomplenazo, and there's this really great moment when we ran into you guys on the street, and he was like, he had this really awesome the jackets that you guys have.
The Bombalele jackets.
Those jackets are awesome. And he was just chilling out, smoking his Black and Mild, and he started singing. Remember?
Yes.
He started singing. That was a really great moment. Cause,
that was cool, man.
You know, me seeing pictures of him and being able to be there around him as well. I know I was like super nervous for our gig when we did was it Camaradas?
Which you guys fucking killed, by the way. That was like my highlight of Bomplenazo, I gotta say.
Love.
That's love. We were excited, man. We trying to get on that stage.
And then you guys were hella rock
we trying to get on that stage.
we had released with the Rockstar shades and like
the shades.
And I was like, fuck nice. Yeah. I couldn't contain myself. I was right there all groupie status and shit right there in the front.
I'm your groupie, man. You know I love you, man.
We're mutual groupies.
Yeah. And so it's really cool when we were performing. Just he was sitting on the side, just hanging out.
Loving it.
There.
He was
awesome.
loving it. He was loving it.
That was a very powerful moment. That was cool. So you're still in Cali. So you get to Cali, right? And you're starting this journey of Bomba. You're learning. And then was Bomberas de la Bahia the first group that you were part of? No,
you were part Cacique Congo was the first group.
And then from there,
we founded, me and a few other of the women from the community, some that are not there anymore. So like Cynthia Renta, who I think is back on the East Coast, Sara Zeta Ragazzi, Melissa Reyes. I think we were the original members that kind of stuck through. There was a lot of other women that came in, you know, spent some time. We had folks like a Cuban woman, Wanda, Denise Gonzalez, La Colorada.
Ay, La Colorada.
La Colorada was in there, and then Vanessa Camarena, Ilia Correa, who had just recently moved from Puerto Rico, Pucci, Vanessa Ceballos, La Peruana, who's now in Hawaii.
Nice.
Yeah. So then what happened was, so I started playing primo and was playing primo in my teacher's class, Itos, and also would get the opportunity to play in the La Peña class, and was in Cacique Congo singing and bulleando. And then I met actually Melanie Maldonado at the time, now Melanie Emanueli, came in. She came to interview Shafali because she was doing this thing on women in Bomba. And then she met me, and she didn't know. She's like, oh, you play primo? And I was like, oh, I'm learning, you know. And I didn't know at the time that women weren't really playing primo. Yeah. And then Cynthia, who came from the East Coast, who was more kind of aware of the Bomba communities outside of California, because we were in a bubble. I didn't know anything. I just knew we're doing Bomba in California, and I'm sure there's hella Bomba in Puerto Rico. I've never been there, but I didn't know anyone. Wow. And so Cynthia Renta was really instrumental in saying, like, there's a bunch of other bomberas out there. We should connect with them because you're playing primo and no one's playing primo except for Manuela in New York, Alex Lasai's partner. And Manuela's a musician in her own right.
Yeah, she's
Big
awesome.
Shout out to our New York family over there. She was directing a group called Yaya or Yayas. I always mess up the name, so my bad. But Las Yaya, something like that.
Yeah.
And so
it was a lot. So was it Yaya?
Yaya or Yayas or Las
was it
Yaya?
only one?
I don't know. I know it was a lot, but I don't know if like they all like traveled as one.
That's awesome.
So my one of the program coordinators at La Peña said, "Hey, I have some funding. You should," because she's a friend of mine from Texas that also had moved to the Bay and was doing cultural arts administration, and she said, "We have this Latina Women's Festival. I'm gonna give you a budget, do an all women event."
Yeah,
and
awesome.
I was like, "No, I can't do an all women event. I don't know anybody. I'm not the teacher in this community. I'm a student. Like I don't know." And she was like, "Do it." And Cynthia was like, "Girl, they're giving us money. We'll make it fucking happen. Like, let's do it." And so that's how we did the first ever West Coast kind of like all women event called La Bomba es Nuestra. It was in 2007. And from there, Las Bomberas de la Bahía was born, which actually Norca Nadal from New York, by way of Maya West, she's the one that gave us the name. She's like, oh, because we were like, her, Auxil Febles, like some of the other bomberas that came, Amarilis, Rios, Melanie, to that first one, were like, hey, you guys should actually keep this going, do a group. So that's how Bomberas de la Bahía was formed.
I was actually just about to ask you too about the name, but she
yep. And Norca composed a song for us that we used to do in Holandés. Preparen candela, porque ya llegaron a la bombera de la bahía.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So that was our song, theme song.
So being an all women's group, how difficult was it? Like, were you met with? I'm sure you had to have been met with some resistance, especially from, was it maybe elders or,
yes.
or who was it that, or who were the people? Like, and Chris, you want to start naming names, but
name them, name names.
What was that like confronting that and pushing through that?
So I would say, when we started doing this, it was a very small bomba community. It still is relatively small in the Bay Area. I think it's growing, and that's a beautiful thing. And we now have a really kind of rapidly growing bomba community in Los Angeles. There's one in San Diego that's been there even longer. And so there were like 3 men that played bomba, 3 or 4 men, and they were in 10,000 other gigs, trying to make a living and playing. So it was, if we wanted bomba, like those dudes had to be available. And so I think part of it was like there was this fever from a lot of us students that wanted to play, and we all a lot of us happen to be women. So and I particularly really appreciated the percussion part. I didn't want to dance bomba. So we started this women's bomba jam because it was modeled after something Norca had done in New York that Cynthia had gone to. She said, hey, we should do a women's bomba jam in the Bay Area and not invite men. Like, men are exclusively not invited. That did start a bochinche, because then the men were like, why are you trying to be divisive? What the fuck?
That's true.
So we had a big email chain going back and forth, but fuck it, we did the women's bomba jam. About months later is when we did La Bomba es Nuestra, and Bomberas de la Bahía was formed. But we did, I lost my teacher. Like, Ito refused to teach me after that because he didn't believe in it being an all-women's bomba group. He didn't feel like that was honoring the tradition. And, he had his reasons. But so I think I had to pick, and so I wanted to continue directing this group. And we were all learning, because I'm still a student, but, we're talking 15 years later. I don't know, 8 years later. I don't even know. Fuck. I'll do the math another day. But that was we were founded in 2007. So.
Okay.
10 years.
10 years. So.
Estamos 10, ¿verdad?
Estamos 10. So 10. So 10 years later, I'm in a different place. But we definitely started kind of all learning together. And a lot of folks in our community boycotted us. They didn't go to our performances. And, said, eso no es la tradición, or they don't know what they're doing, or then later it became like, nomás están enseñando las tetas ahí, or, just like,
mira la colorada, está bien activada.
It's like, okay, cool. Like, so there was a lot of like comentarios and stuff that happened, or just lack of support, and not by everyone. And of course, I'm not going to get into all the bochinche of names, but there definitely was some resistance, and it looked different ways.
Man. but y'all did it.
Yep.
But we also got a
did it.
lot of love. So I gotta say, like, you know, I have to say I very rarely have felt like any kind of like hostility. And also me being a Mexicana, like, well, I'm Texan of Mexican descent, whatever.
And I was just about to ask you
Yeah.
that you not being Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that as well was an obstacle for you to try to.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one thing is I don't ever take for granted the opportunity I've been given to be able to be in community with such amazing people from this culture and like this tradition. So I don't take that for granted, and I do always try to approach it with like a humble heart, and I'm always learning and try to have a lot of love for everyone in the community. And have gotten a lot of love. Like, you know, there's been, when I go to New York, I get a lot of love. You know, Alex Lasai, for example, just brought a whole crew of us, Ivelisse and Ruben included, to represent from the different parts of the diaspora for Unión Balance and Bumplenazo. Buya was representing right in the island. Just the folks of the Bomba community, you know, have given me lots of love, and it's so many to name. I think when I first started coming around, it was like Oxil Febles, Marien, Amarilis, Rafa Pablo, like just a shitload of people giving love.
There's great videos on Pauli Mejias used to do this thing.
The
YouTube, Pauli Mejias used to do the YouTube videos,
Yes.
Conga Boricua. And he would always have different musicians on, and there's like a set of videos of you and Amarilis drumming together.
Yes.
And when I was first starting, I watched those videos
Yes.
back to back to back to back. Those are awesome videos because y'all were just like ripping it. Ripping in Pauli with the little clapper thing and the fake cucaracha, like, you know, him being being funny, but those are that shows a lot.
Absolutely.
That you got that.
Absolutely,
that support.
yeah. It's been a lot of love from all over. You know, people in Maya West, Kili, Christian, my new extended family, the Familia Cepeda. That's been like a whole other learning journey of just their history and going back several generations doing this, like their lived experience. And then like all of us that are just trying to make cultura happen. Buya, I gotta say, like I appreciate you guys putting it out there and having it be available to the world. I think you guys have been very innovative in how you take it to the train, blast that shit on social media, and like then you were on like the Chicago morning news. Like that's beautiful, because this is music that was kept on the under because of the community where it started. It started in the Black community. It started in people in bondage and resistance, and a way for folks to rebel. And so, of course, you got to keep that shit down. You don't want people to recognize their power. So the fact that you guys have been doing that, and that a lot of like, there's so many new Bomba communities, that it's just really exciting.
Yeah, there's always new bomberos.
Yeah,
really
I kind of feel like now, like if I have to travel for work, I'm like, is there a Bomba community at Disney? Oh, now there is. Or like, I gotta go to DC. Oh shit, there's Bomba there too. Like, I think that's really, really amazing.
So, man, that was beautiful. That was so nice. When in the first episode when we were talking with Buya, you know, I was asking him about, you know, the first gig and first gigs, right? And so they highlighted one that was in Puerto Rico, and Bito mentioned that it was like one of the most embarrassing Bomba moments that he had. I want to ask you, what was your most embarrassing Bomba moment that you've had?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. I'm trying to think. I've had so many.
It's okay. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because we always want to say, you don't grow without taking a couple L's along the way.
Yep.
Absolutely. I would say, you know, I remember the first time I played Bomba in Puerto Rico was in 2006, and I went to El Boricuan. I don't know what group it was, if it was Son de Bate or, but it was one of those groups that like Pipo and Pablo, Marien was there. It may have been Tambuye. Yep, shout out to Pipo and Pablo and Marien and all those folks doing Bomba out there. And so I went, and they were like, particularly Marien and Melanie were like, you're here, you gotta play Primo. And I was like, Oh hell no! Like no women at that point. No women had that I knew of at that point had been playing primo, and I was there with my teacher, and he was like, "Well, si tú quieres tocar." So what for me was really embarrassing is I wasn't in on all the songs, and in Bomba, like you gotta know the songs and the structure so that you know, as because the primo calls the song, and so I think it was Pablo that was singing, and he starts singing, and I'm next to like people and some other guy there on the buleadores, and they're looking at me like, who the fuck is this? Like, I don't think they meant him wrong, but they were just like, who would take sitting on the primo?
Yeah.
One, we don't know you. Two, you're like a woman, and three, like what the fuck? Like, who are you? Do you even know what the hell you're doing? And sure enough, like he starts singing. I'm like, fuck, I don't know this song. And then Ito's
you gotta
like,
look for someone right away.
And I
like,
was looking, and I
like,
think it was Ito's like, Esika. He was standing right next to me. He was like, Esika. And then I called it in, but I had a couple of seconds there. I was like, shitting my pants, like, oh my god. This is like a big moment, and I don't know this song.
I think this sounds like a...
Let's do the shuffle.
Música. Okay, está bien.
And so it was also a powerful moment because a lot of people danced. But then also what I was super embarrassed is I got a huge ass blister. And so that was, to me, I was just like, oh man, hella weak. Like,
people gotta stop thinking like that.
I
I've
know.
come across a lot of people like I'll play a gig, and yeah, we're going nuts. So stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah, I had this big ass blister.
Like,
I was like, they're like,
No, that's pussycat stuff. That's
Exactly.
the way it's always gonna be. Because you get a blister, you're a pussycat. Like your hands shouldn't be getting blisters.
But I would say also anytime I'm pulled out to dance is for me is like an embarrassing moment because I'm not a dancer and
I've seen you dance.
I fake it.
There's a great moment when she was here when it was Bombalele's first anniversary. Was at Casa Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because they started the song. Denise was nowhere to be seen. I don't know if you remember this.
Yes.
That
was Evelisa's brilliant idea.
Okay, so they start.
What did I do?
Dale, when you get back, you'll hear. When they start the song, Bombalele starts the song, and Denise comes out of the crowd, throwing piquetes and singing. That was like that was powerful.
Oh, thank
that
you.
was a really dope.
Inside, I was freaking the fuck out. Remember, you had that brilliant idea that I should come in throwing piquetes and singing for the Bombalele's show.
Hell yeah.
That's what you
were
great. Remember some shit that I blocked out of my memory? Like, what? I didn't do that.
Killed it. That was awesome.
No, that was crazy because everybody was quiet.
Well, I wanted to challenge you.
I know you did.
And you wanted to come out, and I know you could.
Yeah, I know you wanted to.
And I know
this.
How were so Bomberas de la Bahia was starting, right? And you guys were in this process of dealing with all this resistance and dealing with all these things and these obstacles in your way. What were those first practices like? Because you said you guys were learning together.
So we started practicing like almost a year before it was months before we even did anything in public. And that I think was one of the more like beautiful parts of Bomberas de la Bahia is that we used to meet and we always ate together and we like hung out.
You guys broke bread.
So yeah, we broke bread. So that meant our rehearsals were like 5 hours long, and we rehearsed for like an hour. But then we would like hang out. But it was cool because we were learning together. I remember I really, really wanted to do El Pescador. Like I've always been really into Colombian.
That's Afro-Colombian.
Afro-Colombian. Yeah, I've always been really into bullerengue. And really into all of the Afro-Latino kind of diaspora, like black music.
That's one of the cool things about Bomba is when you start it, you sort of get introduced to this umbrella of Afro-Latin, Afro-Caribbean.
And so part of me, when we kind of founded the group, I was like, I want to do a fusion. I want to do El Pescador and Bomba. And then folks are like, no, you better not. So I remember us trying to figure it out, like what rhythm would we do it in and how would it go? And so we did a lot of like experimenting, and some stuff came off really well and some didn't. Like I listened to old recordings of our performance. I'm like, what the fuck were we thinking? There was one where I think it was our second performance, and the singer forgot the song. So she's starting the song and then she forgot, and you could tell on the video where she's like searching, and then somebody else like comes next to her to like, let me help you sing the song, and then it came back to her. But we had a moment where we're all like, fuck, even let anyone know. We don't know what the fuck we're doing.
So we smile.
Yeah, so we
smile your way through.
we definitely had our moments because we kind of like grew up together. And when we started the group, a good percentage of the group had never done bomba, and we didn't have a class. So I think that's something I really appreciate now about Taller Bombalele is we have a classes, we have the taller, we have an ensemble, and then we have a community that does the bombazos. And so that really is like a pipeline for folks to learn to do it in community, and then you have like the performance aspect of it. For bomberas, we were just the performance aspect because we didn't do like monthly bombazos or anything. We would if we had like folks visiting, and we didn't have classes.
Man, that's awesome.
Que mucho tu horse.
Man, my brother's trying to shoot me. Wow.
While I'm eating Cheetos.
While I'm eating these J's.
That's great.
She's trying to dodge the bullet.
I know she is. So
Julia's texting you.
Besides bomba, you do pretty important work, right? Besides just being someone that is important within the community. Outside of that, you also do important work as well.
Well, I mean, I'm an organizer, so since I moved to California in 2002, I've been working as a labor organizer now. An elected leader of my union, so definitely do a lot of work with particularly the members of our union, which are janitors, security officers, and as part of that, really want to be part of like whatever this resistance to this new administration looks like, and just trying to be part of movements that are being bringing people together to trying to fight for some sort of justice in this fucked up world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. When you had the group, when you guys were encountering those obstacles, was there ever a moment where you or the group felt discouraged? Like you thought, man, this might not work? I
could speak for me. I mean, I would say that, yeah, definitely. And I think it also, there still are moments where I am very conscious about like who I am and not being Puerto Rican. My wife gives me a hard time. Julia's like, you're coming at it with a very open heart, and you're like very humble, and you're doing important cultural work. So Julia always like gives me a lot of like encouragement, but not being Puerto Rican, I definitely have had those moments of feeling discouraged or feeling like, oh, let me know my place. And I would say, especially when we were in the group, I would say though that resistance or whatever, it more like molestaba because it was like, oh, you want like your community to come out and support you or your teachers. But it wasn't like super horrible, but it was there. And what we would do is get together and be like, oh man, that fucking sucks, but let's do our shit. And I think that the love we had for us as an ensemble, because we were all friends and we were all, éramos familia, I think really pushed us to like continue to do it. And also just once we started meeting people in Chicago and New York and going to Puerto Rico a lot, like then that kind of really fed our bomba souls. For lack of a better term.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Poder bombear con otros bomberos.
Yeah,
it's like a recharge.
It is,
It's a beautiful thing. I want to thank you.
Thank you, yes.
For agreeing to do this with us. This is something that, like I said in the first episode, this is something that I wanted to start to do so I could learn more about Bomba and about the people in it as well. Especially have these moments where we can sort of share these things and also not just me but whoever else out there that is starting Bomba that wants to start Bomba, they can have this to listen to, and so they could learn, and from there they can grow with us as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's important because one of the things that sometimes happens is you have this beautiful tradition and then you bring in like the capitalism, which could look like, oh, who are we bringing to do workshops? How much are your workshops costing? Whose workshop is more popular? Who's getting more gigs? And it kind of inadvertently turns this into a competition, which if we let it happen, it becomes very problematic for us building bridges, right? Yeah. And so there's that, which I fall into too. I'm not trying to come across as like hella self-righteous about it, just trying to be more aware of like those
trying to be
moments.
A lot more conscious of yourself.
Yeah, because then I go to Chicago, or well, really Chicago outside of the Bay Area in the diaspora is like no other for me. I love my New York people too, and I don't know other cities as much, but I always feel like this is otra cosa. So when you do that, then you're like reminded of what it feels like to be connected and feel love. So I guess it's like, how do we encourage ourselves to do this more often, even if it's not hella formal, like we're gonna do a big intercambio festival, like it could be like, hey, I'm going for the weekend, let's hang out and jam. And also, how do we I'm also learning how to figure out how to really honor our elders. And for me right now, what I'm trying to do is like trace back Bomba lineage in terms of like who we all learn from, because I think that's important. I was in a
different schools that exist,
a workshop with a rumba maestro, Abacua maestro that came from Cuba to the Bay Area, and you know, they like in the Cubans, when you're playing order, they're like, okay, who did you learn from, who did they learn from? And so I've been thinking about that too, and I think it's important to honor, like, you know, Ito's my teacher, even though we had a disagreement about whatever, that's who I learned from. I learned from Ito, I learned from Hector. Who did they learn from? Like, Ito comes from the Familia Cepeda. Yeah. There's other other elders in other regions of Puerto Rico that are also equally as valuable. I think we just lost one of the Villodas, like Eva, like yesterday or today. And so as our elders are, you know, transitioning, I think it's really important that we honor that, like, their legacy, and that if they didn't do what they did, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. And I couldn't live without Bomba.
Me neither.
I think none of us could, right? No. Our motto of our school is de Santurce a la Bahía, la Bomba es vida. And because I feel like Julia came from Santurce to the Bay Area and brought me life in many ways. She's my wife, and so I always get all like, oh. But I feel like she also brought life to a community, and we have like all these new Bomba community members that you know felt so far away from home, because a lot of the folks in our class are Puerto Rican, and like have told us many times over, like, it's not just the Saturday dance class, it's that I have now a community of Puerto Ricans that I know that I can hang out with, and we do potlucks and stuff, and they love that shit, because that's like, a lot of folks feel super alone, like their family, and that there's an exodus happening because of the economic situation in Puerto Rico. And so I come from an immigrant family. I know what it feels like to have to leave home because you can't afford to stay where you're at, and I imagine it's terribly heartbreaking. So if we can bring a little sense of community to our folks, I think that's a big thing.
That's awesome. You're doing great work. That's awesome.
So are you all? Oh my gosh. Mutual love. Yeah,
that's a wrap. Episode number 2 on the Raitrú podcast. You can catch Buya on Facebook, Bomba con Buya. You can also catch us on Instagram at Bomba con Buya. You can catch me on Instagram at Pacheco, ISSPACHECO. Denise, what social medias?
We're on Facebook at Taller Bombalele dance classes, or at Taller Bombalele. Okay. We have a website, but it's not finished.
So coming soon. Thank you so much for all the listeners. Hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Con amor, Raitrú. Peace. Love.